Hi, gay people. I want to do a little look-see-poo at a couple Marseille decks. Marseille style decks. So when I ordered the Tarot des Ambiguïtés, which I did another whole video of, and I just... chef's kiss, love it. Very weird, very clever, and very usable. I had never ordered anything from Artisan Tarot before, so I splurged, as we do. And I picked up... Now, I thought I got something other than the Conver. Honestly, I don't know why I got the Conver. I got the CBD, which is the Bendov Conver. It's great. I thought I was getting Dodal, because my Flournoy Dodal is great, but it's hard to shuffle. So I think that's maybe what I thought I was doing here. So I have to go back and, like, figure out what's going on. So this one's fine. I mean, look, they did a lovely job with it, and the point is not that this is fine. The point is that I didn't want to make the video about this. I just want to show, but I'll show. It's if you don't like the CBD for some reason, this is very similar because it's the Conver, and it is on linen cardstock, which many people prefer, and it's not published by U.S. Games. Now, Yoav Bendov made the images available on his website, which last time I looked were still there, and released them as a Creative Commons situation, so that you could they weren't really copyrighted, even though the U.S. Games edition of his decks has I love the backs, incidentally. They're not really copyrighted because he put them out as a Creative Commons license, even though U.S. Games, being U.S. Games, puts their copyright on everything, like a dog that needs to mark its territory. I don't know what to say about that. What I do want to show, though, is this. This is the Jacques Vieville. I don't have an edition of this particular Marseille-influenced deck. And it's one that I haven't collected for various reasons over the years, one of which is that the Trumps are majorly different in a lot of ways. And I'll show you how. And I really was only reminded of that as I was putting the deck back in order to do this, because I had played around with it the other day. As we do. So, it's really, so this is a very cool situation. And I'm going to show it to you. So, yeah, so I'm going to read the little art card here for you, because it tells you quite a lot. This restoration is based on the 1650 tarot deck created by Jacques Vieville in Paris. The only known copy is preserved in the National Library of France. Due to the age and craftsmanship, many details are indistinct. Conditions of the time required card makers to labor quickly under strict work environment, which led to this deck's unique character. And it's very unique, and that's why I'm showing it and not the Conver. There are many uncertainties surrounding the production of these cards. Most of the images are mirrored compared to its contemporaries. The style of the artwork varies throughout the deck, and the placement of the numerals and text suggests they were added separately to the original design. And then it talks about the making of this. The deck was digitally recreated by Christina Condor with the assistance of William Rader. They studied the images and researched their history to clarify and reveal hidden areas. To create consistency, the same color palette was used throughout the deck. The misaligned coloring was corrected, and details are also enhanced. Advances in card manufacturing have allowed this historic deck to be refined for the modern world. So I am going to use the Conver just to kind of shake. The Conver, interestingly, is sort of a classic standard. It's sort of the my standard Marseille is the Noblette, which you probably know if you watch my channel, because my own sort of attempt to do a representational deck was the Noblette, and that was what I used as the base for what I called the multi-Marseille, which was really, just an attempt to create a Marseille under the confines of the, Euro colonial whiteness, but that was Marseille, and that made space for folks in all body and skin and ethnicities and races to be there. And I have a whole video on this, actually, in honor of Ben Dove and his work. I make these images available under a Creative Commons license as well. I'm pretty happy with it. The Noblette, this is sort of the long-winded way of saying, the Noblette is kind of my go-to default. And obviously this version of it now has become my default because it is more representational, although the argument could very easily be made that in taking the Euro-colonial style of it, I've essentially just imposed people of color into a Euro society, image that would have done awful things to them. Which is a fair argument. What I tried to do in this one was to make sure that, when I was reflecting hair and body, that they were, even in this case, sort of, a non-binary situation. I was trying to create a situation where I wasn't just putting black skin on white bodies. I was making adjustments in body structure, facial structure, hair type, eye type, etc., to make this not just blackface, for lack of a better term. And I also sort of, gave for example, the King of Wands, an amputated leg. You know what I mean? I dramatically changed the hair and shape of the star, etc. So it was, again, given my limited artistic abilities, that was my attempt to make something inclusive. And I think it is relatively successful, if not entirely successful. But I offer that on Make Playing Cards at no markup. So you can buy a copy of that for the cost basically it takes to print and ship. I don't make any money off of it. I make like a fraction of a cent, which if that ever amounts to anything. Anyway, that's not the point of this video. Maybe I should cut all that out. Anyway, the point of that was that the Noblette, which mine is based on, is my go-to, and it's the first extant Marseille. If you're new to this, if you're new to my channel. The Conver, which I will probably call the CBD over time because it's how I first met it, was the Conver Ben Dove CBD. This is the Nicolas Conver deck. And this is kind of a bog standard Marseille for the time period when the Marseilles were being Marseilled. So I'm going to show you the two side by side, but the focus is really this. Now, the color scheme that they worked on for this particular edition of the Vieville is gorge. And I will tell you, another thing that I kind of wish I had done when I did mine was that I did distress it to make it look like an unretouched, unrecreated version of it, even though that's what it is. And so I went for wonky inconsistencies and a tea stain. But when I reach for Marseille decks, often I reach for these recreations that are really crisp and modern. And this is the Noblette that I was introduced to first. And this, like the Noblette that I have, not the Noblette, this is the Noblette, the Dodal is a modern redrawing by Flournoy. This one's a little, color-wise, it's a little more sepia. Can I reach it? I really need to clean up my space. Oh, but you can't even see all this because I'm not. So this is the Flournoy Dodal. Oh, we love the Dodal card. Right on top. Which is another card deck that I really love. And it's really large and hard to shuffle, but I love the wonky faces in this one. Anyway, I'm kind of now showing all the Marseilles, which was not the intent of this video. I don't use that version that much because it is hard to shuffle. Anyway. So, what was I saying? Oh, I was saying that because these are recreations, which I find more attractive on the eye than what I did here, which was the make it look old and distressed. So, the Vieville was based likely on things like the Conver and the Dodal, and weirdly, they're all kind of facing the wrong way, and the numbers are wrong, etc. So the question is always, why? Was that intentional? Was it a copy? Was it pirated? We don't really know. But it does create a delightful deck that may not be your... I wouldn't say the Vieville, if you're looking at Marseille, as your first deck, because the trumps are so different from most. But it's a good one. You just need to know what you're looking at, and this does not have titles. But this color scheme, to me, is much more attractive than this color scheme. This is not really the original color scheme because, of course, we know... If you look at a restoration version, it's very messy. But I love it because it's so not primary colors, which is a thing that drives me nutso. So... You can kind of see that it's a sort of wonkified version of this, and... That's what makes it so kind of delightful to me. Because it's like the Island of Misfit Toys, Marseille. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't look this way. You know, it's like I don't remember the toys anymore. So the order changes weirdly. No idea why. But here's Justice at 7. Obviously, the Chariot is usually 7. The Chariot is 8 here. Justice is at 8. The Hermit is both 9. We use progressive numeral here and regressive numeral there, by which I mean progressive Roman numerals count the 1 up until the next 5. Regressive numerals will do 1 or 2 back from the 10, if that makes sense. So this is 5 plus 4, this is 10 minus 1, both meaning 9. Oh wait, no, but that's strength, so anyway, Hermit, that's the Hermit, that's strength. Strength is 9 here, Hermit's 9. So just a lot of weirdnesses in that regard. So if the numbering matters to you, that's the thing to know. FYI. I'm making a mess. I'm going to put the backs of the cards not in camera so that it doesn't drive me nuts. And I don't find myself constantly fixing them. Now, I will say, just because it's right in front of my face, the Conver was 1760, and the Noblette was in the 1650s. So even though, you know, these look similar, this is not a version of this, because this came first. But we don't know what its source was. And they all have very similar looks. So here we have Force at 11 and the Hermit at 11 in the Vieville. Now that's not a big deal because most of the cards look relatively the same. Now here we get into one of the first weirdnesses with the Vieville, which is that the Hanged Man is upside down. Literally. So I tend to, when I shuffle this deck, just revert it. Which technically makes this 8, but whatever. But you can see that it is a completely different thing because, weirdly, it was done this way and printed that way, and that's correct for the Vieville. But the similarities between these two are very, very striking. And again, we don't know a whole lot about the printing process because these were kind of throwaway things. They were gambling decks, so they weren't really meant to be long-standing works of art. They were meant to be made quickly and sold, you know, to gamble with. So here's where things get a little different. So the tower in the Vieville is actually a tree. And this is where I was like, oh, right, the tower is not a tower here. And there are tarot folks out there who have a lot of history that you can explore. And Justin Michael's channel, he has a lot of interviews with deck creators, deck restorers, etc. And he's done a lot of research. So if you don't know Justin's channel, which if you're watching this you probably do, But if you don't, for some bizarre reason, check out his videos because he goes a lot into the history. He knows a lot of why things were done and when things were done, etc. I really like the changes to the star, moon, and sun in the VAV. I find them just a little more, I don't know, striking. I've never understood the Romulus and Remus moment with the, like, squeezing nipple situation there. I really love this Judgment version and then the World. Now, there's not a lot different when we get into the suits. Why did I... Oh, because this was never shuffled, so... I'm not going to show you the pips. They're more or less the same anyway. Yeah, I'm not going to do that because I don't want us to take the time to deal with that now. So we'll just focus on the pips and the courts with this deck. So Artisan Tarot is an indie place, and I am very traditionally is such a not appropriate word in this case. I'm sort of like over the mass market stuff at the moment for various reasons, with some exceptions. You know, I'm very, very happy with, in many ways, the new Fifth Spirit, which I did a video on from Hay House, a company I have zero love for, but the new version of the Fifth Spirit. Very successful, and definitely the version that I am reaching for, and that's a deck that's kind of one of my go-to with clients. So now I'm just rambling. I'm going to show you the minors, the pips. There's a very sort of gradient, lovely color palette for these cards, and they're the primary colors, but because they chose a rustier, sort of milk paintier quality for the primaries here, I find this much sexier, much more attractive on the eyes. I have always hated red, blue, and green, red, blue, and yellow together. I don't know why. It's probably because they are the absence of nuance. You know, like they are the structure, the foundation of every other color, but boring individually. And all three of them are not colors I particularly look good in. So there's also that bias. So here are the courts. Again, no labels, but the page is always standing. The knight's always on a horse. The queen and the king are always sitting. And this petulant little sassy king's ready to scratch your eyes out, bitch. Which, hello, I love. Those French colonials were such queens. Sorry about it. The cups also have this sort of great little, like, weird, wonky, flunky, bonky thing at the bottom. And many of the cards are off-center, which, again, I love. I love that they don't correct the problems, but they give us just very sharp, crisp, immediate lines. And I don't know why, I just love really sharp, crisp, immediate lines. The gradients just look really good. And I just find this suit of cups of Marseille decks to be my favorite. Here's a very kind of like ornery old page. And a very cranky Knight of Cups. Like, this is not the Knight of Cups you want to wake up next to. Queen of Cups is kind of a badass. And the King of Cups is kind of a daddy. So, swords. Again, just gorgeous color palette. Really nice. Really much simpler and less adorned than other editions of Marseille tarots. But, fresh and sexy, which are my core values. Boink, boink, boink. So this page. So they're all both linen cardstock, which is very easy to shuffle if you are not like me, a klutz. I do find linen slippy if it's not a standard playing card size deck. And I'm going to make another video in a little bit tonight because I have time to sort of batch about my Lenormand decks just after the last couple weeks of the Lenormand. I never know how to say it. I'll say that more in the next one. Like, look how fucking wonky that is. I love it. So this is the Jacques Vieville, VAV. This is the Artisan Tarot edition. Like most indie decks, they're more expensive than the mass market versions would be, but I think I haven't seen a mass market VAV that I am aware of. And I'm always a little, I'm happier to sort of spend more on indie decks anyway, because the quality is usually good, the customer service is usually good, and the indie creators are much more interesting to me than like the mass market, which now has decided that really its audience isn't tarot readers at all, but Chad and Becky on TikTok. At least as far as I can say. It's funny, the Weiser Instagram account shared my review of the Weiser Tarot recently, which if you watch the video that I did, you can hear me sort of struggling with the fact that it is very problematic, while also, like, my 1990s progressive heart, sort of, that's the deck that I always wanted, and now it's here, and, like, it's not good enough, because it's just a problem. Anyway, it was funny that they shared it on their Instagram story so long after I did it, but without, any context. And any of the video that I did on Instagram about, how really that deck is essentially blackface. It just doesn't succeed in the way that I wanted it to. And I don't know that you can. Again, like you can say about my Marseille that really it is a white fantasy, you know what I mean? And you wouldn't be wrong. Was my intent to create one? No. And feedback from folks has been relatively positive, and at the same time, that doesn't mean that I'm not imposing fantasies of, people of color into a French colonial landscape. So both things are true. And that's the thing that, as diviners, I think we need to come to grips with, white people in particular. We need to understand that. Multiple things can be true at the same time. But what are we doing to dismantle colonialism? I always love to lay out a spread. The 9-card spread's my favorite spread. So we have the Fool, the Queen of Pentacles or coins, Temperance, 3 of Cups, 6 of Swords. Yeah, 6 of Swords, King of Swords, 7 of Coins, 9 of Wands, and the Devil. And I love when the Devil ends in a reading. And there's a lovely rhyme between the Fool and the Devil in this case, which I think is very sexy. And so we have a situation here where, the flower becomes the Fool. Breaking out of this sort of beautiful prison of the mind. And essentially what they're walking away from is the embrace of capitalism and its tendency to soothe your feelings. And in the middle row, we've got the result of that is that our heart starts expanding and our mind starts shifting because we can't ignore and unknow what we know. And then that forces us to reckon with what's actually important in life and what we're willing to give our energy to. And what we really should be giving our energy to is the industrial as the devil. Just a really very strange and quick reading. Anyway, I just love to read tarot. Until, what I was doing there, for anyone who's curious, is boink boink. So the flower becomes the Fool. Why? I don't know. It occurred to me. The prison of the mind, a beautiful prison, a gilded cage, because 6s are beauty, swords are the mind. The Fool breaks out of it and moves away from the Queen of Pentacles and Temperance, who are in a little relationship of capitalism and the balm of spending money, which makes our mind grow, and our deeply mature inner self can't accept the pretty thoughts anymore because our heart has changed. And so we have to look at what's important really in life, because 7s are introspective, coins are life. Our energy, expenditure in the 9 of Wands should be on the Devil. If we're going to give our energy away, give it to the thing that is capitalist. He says doing a review of decks he bought. Huzzah. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. This is really a very strange and long-winded exploration review of the Jacques Vieville Tarot de Marseille from Artisan Tarot, with commentary on the Convert, my own Noblette, and various other Marseille nonsense. Have a good weekend. Be good.